So this is our walnut block, and the first thing we're going to do is work at making it round. At first we have to go at a very slow speed. So now we have rounded the blank out, and you can see we have created a pattern. This is going to be the handle end of the wand, and this is going to be the end of the wand. And then you see there are separate nodes outlined, and we have marked these on the blank. And we're going to start cutting out around them. Okay, we have marked off where the nodes are going to be, and what we want to do is take the spaces between the nodes down to that point where the piece is going to be the thickest, which is an inch. This is an inch, and so we're going to take those down correspondingly now. We can also increase the speed of the turning because it is now round, and we don't have to worry about that as much. So you see now this is an inch, and we're going to make all these places between the nodes down to that diameter. So here you can see where we have taken down the diameter of the wand itself, and also brought out each node correspondingly. Here on this end we still have the rough markings of the nodes, and we have not taken down the diameter of the wand at all. Eventually we're going to do this. What we're going to end up with is basically the entire wand, but at a somewhat wider in diameter for all parts. And what we will then do is start taking down the diameter of all the parts until they're the final diameter that we want. Probably the most difficult part of this wand actually is this end of the handle. You can see there's some rather sharp angles there that we have to try to work into the piece. It also, of course, gets very thin there. I'm a little worried about it being so thin that we may not be able to support the torque. The rest of the wand, of course, is relatively simple. It's just a matter of taking down the volume or diameter of the wand itself and then the nodes accordingly. My concern as we do this piece is the actual torque on the wood. This is a fairly long piece, being 15 inches in length, and if you look at the actual elder wand, it's somewhat thinner than this. But my concern is that if we try to thin the actual shafts of this wand too much, that the turning will not be able to take the torque and the piece will snap. So we're just going to have to see if we can deal with this without damaging the piece. By running at a somewhat slower speed, I'm hoping to reduce the torque and strain on the piece so that I can make it somewhat thinner. We have taken this down now to pretty much the final product. What we are going to do now is sand it from 80 grit sandpaper to 240 while it's spinning. We have left both ends till last because they are the thinnest part and they will be producing the most torque on the piece. So we want to get the sanding done before we do that final cutting. We'll do the sanding next. We've already done 80 and 120 grit. Now we're going to do the 240 grit sandpaper. This sanding is actually against the grain of the wood. The grain runs in the direction of the wand. So the final sanding, which we will do, will actually be with 360 grit sandpaper, but that will be without the wand spinning, and we will be sanding in a vertical or along the direction of the grain of the wood. This is the 360 grain sandpaper, and we'll be sanding in this direction all along the circumference of the piece. That actually will get the scratch marks out from the 240 that were running circular, and will eliminate those scratch marks with the 360 grit paper. Okay, we're going to now work the end of the rod to get it down to where the tip is the narrowest at the end of the rod. We're going to do this at a slow speed because we don't want to risk causing it to jam and break the piece. Now that we've taken this down, what we're going to do is sand it. We can do that at a higher speed. first with 80 grit and eventually up to 240. I mean 120. And now 240. And we'll do the 360 in the direction of the actual grain of the wood, which is this way. Now we want to separate the knob at the end, the knob at the end from the first knob, and we're going to do that with the parting tool. We'll do this with a little more speed. We are going to do the final fine-tuning of this junction here with sandpaper. We've already hit it with 80 grit. We're now going to hit it with 120 grit sandpaper. The elder one had these notches in the handle. We're going to produce those using the grinder with a round ball-like end on it to produce these notches. So here we have a notch. We've got markings for all 4 notches. We'll start this notch here. You have to keep the grinder moving because it gets hot and it burns the wood. I find it's better to go from notch to notch because the burr and the wood gets hot, and then you end up burning the wood. So if you keep moving from notch to notch, you decrease the chances of burning the wood. The elder wand comes with divots. We are producing these divots with a drill. They are random. Okay, now we can see that the dimpling is done. And if you look at the original elder wand, the handle part and the individual nodes are darker than the shaft part of the wand itself. So what we are going to do is take a cherry stain now and stain those parts that have to be darker. We have taped off the parts that we do not want to stain accordingly. So here we have the cherry gel stain, and what we're going to do is take this brush and we're going to stain those parts. We're using the brush so we can get into all the little dimples that there are. Okay, we look over all the parts to make sure they're all covered. Okay, now we actually take a rag and wipe off the excess stain. Again, if you look at the Harry Potter wand, there is a section of the wand that is colored white, which has some insignia on it. While the stain is drying, we're going to take some gesso, which is the base acrylic that is used in acrylic painting, and we're going to paint that section of the wand with the gesso. The benefit of leaving these ends on the piece is that it holds the piece up off the surface, and we can turn it without disturbing the other parts that have been stained. Now this is acrylic, and it really dries very, very fast. The battle plan is to get the stain and the acrylic to dry. We're then going to put the insignia where this white is. And then when we're done with all of that, we're going to put polyurethane on the entire wand. So now we have the staining done on the part we want to be a little bit darker. We've put in the acrylic white area for the insignia there. And now we just have to let this all dry. And what we'll do after that is take the tape off and apply polyurethane to the entire wand. Following that, we'll cut off the ends, finish those, put the polyurethane on that, and then we will be done. The polyurethane is dry, so we can now separate the two ends of the piece. That completes the one side. Now we'll do the other. So now you see we have both ends that we have to sand and then finish. This is the completed wand with the polyurethane finish on it.